All right, it's 4 o'clock. Let's call our meeting to order. Harry, can you hear us okay?
I can.
All right.
Yes,
Great to see you.
roll call.
Yes, please. Call the roll.
Mr. Schneider,
Here.
Mr. Kaplan,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
and Mr. Bortman is joining via Zoom. Older persons, Mitchell and Fisher, are you there?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Nick, has our meeting been appropriately noticed?
Yes, the meeting's been appropriately noticed. It was posted in our office vestibule and also sent to City Hall and the library for posting, and in addition, it was sent to the media outlets.
Thank you. Number 3, public comment period. At this time, the commission will recognize members of the public who've indicated a desire to address the commission. Do we have any members of the public for public comments today? Any public comments? Seeing none. Item 4, commissioner, council, and staff comments. Commissioners, anything? All right. Council members, any comments before we start? Thank you. Any staff comments today?
Yes, we have a couple. First, I'll start with Tony on a couple updates.
So one thing we've been working on from an electric standpoint is we've got an EV rebate program, which has recently been rolled out to the public. So right now, what we're focusing on with that is full electric vehicles that are owned in the city of Marshfield, or at least the Marshfield Utility service territory. Any owners that have a level 2 charger installed in their home can qualify for a $500 credit, and a level 1 charger for one of those electric vehicles will qualify for a $25 credit. We have already started meeting with some of the dealerships to kind of give them a heads up of what the program is, how it looks, and that way that would be an additional sales tool for their sales staff to help drive some EV sales. So it just went up last week. We haven't had any calls yet. So.
And on mutual aid,
Oh yeah, another one is so mutual aid. Last 2 weeks ago, we were called down to help with Florida after Hurricane Ian. We ended up sending 2 linemen down there for the better part of a week. Mike Vanderwitz and Andy Gadel went down. They helped New Smyrna Beach Utilities. They had nearly all of their 30,000 electric customers were without power at some point in time during the storm. They got really all the people were restored with service by the storm went through on a Wednesday, Thursday, and everyone was back on by the next Monday. So I think our guys were able to leave town on Tuesday and really congratulate their efforts and the amount of time that they spent driving down, the long days that they worked down there. Most of the work was in floodwaters, so they were standing knee to kind of hip deep in water doing most of the restoration efforts. So it's not as much from the normal storm damage, but yeah, a lot of standing water, sort of rough work conditions.
and just behind the scenes, I guess the framework is Florida has a state association where they're coordinating all the efforts and all the needs at a municipal level, and they're working with American Public Power Association, the national organization, on if there's needs, and then that gets funneled back through us at the state level and to us directly at the utility. So there's a network going on. They're having regular contacts and calls and stuff as the storm is approaching and staging and just trying to get through all the logistics, and that's why you can see, as Tony mentioned, we responded very, while the storm was, even before the storm came through, and everything went really quickly. So, do an update as well?
Sure. Just a reminder to the commissioners and council observers, the celebration that we have on Wednesday to recognize a variety of anniversaries for the year and also for retirements that will be happening at the end of the year. It's Wednesday, 5 o'clock at Wildwood Station. You should have all gotten invites. I've heard some RSVPs from some of you. It's not too late if anybody either needs to change their mind or hasn't RSVP'd and does want to come.
And the last item I have is the Wisconsin section of American Water Works Association, known as AWWA, annually recognizes projects, achievements, utilities, and professionals from all levels within the utility industry. This year, Mike Ebro was recognized with the Stewards of Safe Water Award for his many years of commitment and service as a commissioner overseeing Marshfield Utilities. During his time on the commission, Mike has spent countless hours learning about the utility industry, supporting a number of the projects, being an advocate for the municipal utilities, both locally and nationally, and ensuring the utility is positioned for the future while addressing current issues. Mike was unable to attend the conference to receive the award directly, so this evening we're presenting this award to him, so if you could join in congratulating him. Thank you.
Look at the camera for a second, yeah.
Thank you. That was it?
Yes, that's it.
Election of officers. We have to elect two positions, the president of the commission and the secretary. So let's do, I would entertain one or both at the same time. Probably one is easier. Nominations for president.
I nominate Mike, if you're willing to continue.
The other nominations for president.
I'll second Paul's motion.
Okay. There being no further nominations from the floor, I would declare Mike to be elected by acclamation. For secretary, nominations?
Harry, you willing to one up again?
There, we'll do it in one more.
Okay, so I nominate Harry.
Nomination for Harry. Are there any other nominations?
Second.
There being no further nominations from the floor, I would declare Harry to be elected by acclamation. That being done, let us move on. Number 6, Economic Development Board, quarterly update, Paul.
Quarterly update, all right. A few items today. First, the Development Services Director, which was Josh's position. It's been open since March. Their recruitment continues. They're working with a national firm. There was one interview late last week. No offers made as yet, unless it happened real late last week. But they're still trying, so that's the only candidate that was talked about on last week at the meeting. Update on Daniel's Addition. 14 of the 23 lots have been sold. Construction on those lots, I think according to the agreements or the sales agreements, is supposed to start within a year of the purchase date. 4 are in process right now. 2 of those are spec homes, 2 of those are custom builds. The remainder likely will begin, of those 14 will begin construction in the spring to kind of meet that 1 year marker. Appointment of a new Economic Development Board member. Gordon Edwards resigned from the EDB last month, and the plan was mentioned at the meeting is to replace him with Pat Board, who's one of the Marshfield Clinic leaders.
And he will go through the normal process, so
Yeah.
it'll be presented to the common council for them to determine if they want to appoint him or not.
So probably about next month maybe, or whatever, because it's a 2-meeting thing, I think.
Yes.
Certified Sites Program. WEDC selected Marshfield to be one of their pilot programs for Certified Sites designation. What that does is provides assistance in developing marketing, among other assistance, to land businesses for our industrial park. Primary target for us is the 47 acres that we have available in the land that was obtained from the egg farm. And so it's moving forward, but it kind of gives us a leg up. We can be hopefully some help with marketing with that.
Yeah, in the site selection process, we started with 47, but there's over, I think, 120
Yeah,
acres
yeah.
that are developable
Oh,
or
okay.
close to that. There's some wetlands.
And the last item I have is the development of the West 2nd Street extension, the area from Chestnut to the Ball Diamonds. Steve Barg has pulled together a committee consisting of members from EDD, Common Council, CDA, Mackey, and city staff. He's organizing a meeting, had some scheduling conflicts trying to get that started, but it's hopefully on target. And the goal is to create an implementation plan for the redevelopment of that area, including some residential, commercial, perhaps even light industrial uses. A consultant had provided us with an overall plan, a layout, if you will, so now it's kind of starting to say, so how do we move forward?
Wine Benner probably was going to stay there for a while, I assume, then, or?
Well, there's going to be an update on that within the next month or two, but the plan was that at the end of their current 3-year extension, which I think is in 2 more years, they will be out by then.
Okay.
But we'll see what happens. I mean, seeing is doing, I don't know.
Yeah. Residential development.
Hopefully, out by then, this still means they're staying in town.
Oh, well, that's the
Yeah.
plan, but,
Yeah.
again,
There's obviously a lot of pieces that have to come
Yeah.
together and make all
Yeah.
that to work.
yeah.
And that's obviously part of the reason for the committee to start working on that. to
And also the
determine
city garage, I mean, that area is part of it, so I mean, there's a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear about the certified sites grant. That's a big win.
That should be a big win for us. I hope that helps attract some businesses.
Yeah, and behind the scenes, I think they had some additional questions from the company that was doing the site selection. I know Karen from Mackey was coordinating those questions, and we were helping to respond to some of those. So progress is continuing to move. The only thing that I would add to Paul's update is I didn't get the last meeting. They did talk about a joint meeting between EDB and the Common Council or something, because obviously housing is definitely a topic that's out there and trying to understand from EDB's perspective, but also the Common Council, and trying to get everyone maybe moving in a similar direction, or at least have a similar understanding. So I know that was one of the topics. Was there, Adam, or Paul, do you know if there was a second item?
That was- You said there could be a second item, but there wasn't one identified.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was, yeah.
Oh, the second item was Second Street.
Oh, Second Street, yeah.
That's going to be big, but it's going to take a lot.
Yeah, it's not going to happen tomorrow.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Economic Development Board appointment. Each year we do the appointment to the Economic Development Board at this same meeting, so we would open the floor for nominations to the Economic Development Board.
Paul's willing, I'll nominate him.
I'll do one more year.
Any other nominations?
I'll second that nomination.
Okay. That being the only nomination, we would declare Paul the nominee and elected through acclamation. Thank you, Paul. Number 8, community project.
Yes. So, we just talked about Economic Development Board a little bit, and during those meetings and reading in different resources, I've come to the understanding that improvements in the quality of place is an economic development strategy for communities, especially in a competitive job market that we have right now for trying to retain and attracting new talent. And I think if you look back over a number of years, you can come up with, there's a number of examples within the city. One that came to my mind as I was preparing this was a number of years ago, MU partnered with the city's Park and Rec Department along with the Homises to develop the Homis Nature Preserve and recreational area on the north side of Marshfield. So as I was putting this together, I was like, how could we build on this past experience and improve quality of place in Marshfield? So I'm going to kind of cut right to the punchline to get rid of the suspense. So one of the ideas is, could we build a dedicated sledding hill with amenities here in the city? I'm sure many of you have driven on McMillan Street during the winter and have noticed kids sledding on the hill by the water treatment facility. That hill was there as part of the treatment facility. It wasn't really designed per se for that type of amenity, but thinking about that, what improvements could we make to that area to make it a family-friendly destination for all? So I've worked with Justin a little bit from Director of Parks and Recs, and had some initial conversations on the project, and we both believe this might be a great addition to the community. So I'm going to pass out some renderings that kind of give you some ideas of what could be potential up there. I guess the first thing I want to make sure we all understand is these are not final by any means. These are just to help facilitate a conversation to talk about our project. And see if there's a desire to move the project forward. So I'm going to pass some of that stuff out first. And I think Jess is going to pull it up on the screen as well. And then I have some tag boards here that are a little bit larger, so you can kind of move them there. Pass them down. So, I think this isn't a project that anyone in particular can be the one that came up with it. I think we all can drive by that hill and understand and see the kids that are out there playing and stuff. So this is just really taking an existing area and really improving it so that it becomes more of a destination than just just used as it is now. So you can see, again, the naming, everything was just some stuff that the architect put on here just to get things started. Again, it's all subject to go through a process to understand what the final design would be. So how it was put together was kind of in 3 phases, with phase 1 being really a lot of the moving of the dirt, if you will, or topography. As far as the sledding hill, it's right now it's not shaped. If you were up there sledding, you'd sled into the fence. So this would fix that. And it would also, if you look at kind of the skyline there, you'll notice it makes a bump up by the hill. So it would actually increase the height of it as well to help it mimic more of a traditional sledding hill, if you will, for kids or adults. The architect talked about maybe some hay bales around the border, kind of just from a safety perspective to make sure that spectators or those that are watching wouldn't get ran over. A slow down area at the base, just again to slow it down, and maybe some benches. This would just be kind of a phase 1, if you will, just to try to get the area to be more usable than it is currently. And phase 2, basically builds on this, and really some improvements would be, you could look at making it a destination with like food trucks, make the area set up so that they have the ability to plug in or to do what type of resources they would need. Look at maybe adding a pole in for like speakers and security cameras, maybe look at adding a donation box, something to help fund it. And then also look at something, I'm not quite into the technology yet, but a selfie spot, so you can take a picture and post it on Instagram and all those Facebook areas like that. And then the last piece is, you can kind of see it along the edge here. It's kind of like taking landscape timbers and building somewhat of a staircase just to help with people transversing up to the hill, if you will, just to try to make it a little bit easier on everyone. And then moving into the 3rd phase. The 3rd phase would again build off the first 2. Here we would add additional poles and lights along the west side of it to make it so that the space is more usable at nighttime. A magic carpet that's kind of like a conveyor system, so you basically, if you have your tube or your sled, you just put it on that. It's kind of like an escalator, if you will, or one of those, when you go to the airport, the ones you stand on, what's it called?
People mover.
People mover, there you go. So that would be one thing. Additional parking would be added, and then maybe a permanent facility could be added for warming, and then food and other items as well. Another piece of this that's not really on the drawings, but it does fit into some of the city's master plan as it relates to bike routes, is that there is a plan that shows the bike route kind of originating, connecting from the trail that was put up a few years ago by Grant School, coming up through this property and moving towards the north to help connect with the McMillan Marsh. So that could be something that would be added into this project as well. So, costing, I know that's always a question mark, and obviously there's a lot of unknowns at this point, but high level, very high level. The architect gave me some numbers, didn't really want to, but I asked for just give us budgetary numbers. He felt that phase 1 would be about up to $1 million, give or take, to do all of the different changes to the grading. Phase 2 would be a minimal $150,000 to $100,000, and then phase 3 would be another $1 million. So upwards of maybe $2 million-ish, if you will, from the all-in, all the amenities that were shown would be added.
So that's a lot.
So you're speaking that you want to have a bike path possibly through this, so summertime, other ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's the potential if we can, I mean, there would need to be other private partners to make the bike path work, but that could be a possibility. This obviously, the focus of this is more of a winter recreation, but I know John can contest to this. We see people in the summer going in this area as well, and I could see where definitely for like football athletic teams that want to train and go up a nice hill, maybe this might be a feature that they use for their training. So I think it has some background.
It's
So.
pretty popular with the soccer teams right now. They come up and do their run the hill events to the point where they actually kill the grass going up along the fence every year. So it gets used quite heavily in that regard.
You know, as far as operation of it, as far as the source of funds for it, you know, none of those pieces have been, right now it's a blank canvas. So I'm not presenting this as something that the utility is going to go out and just do. I think it's more of it's a city, it's partnership. That's why Justin's here. I know he's looking forward to taking it to his, to the board or the Parks and Recreation Committee. Just trying to see if there's interest and determine if there is interest, then we can move forward with it. So really looking to see what kind of initial feedback the commission has, and obviously the council observers as well.
I think it's great to find something else that we have that's unique, that most of their towns don't have. You know, like the 2nd Street corridor, they started talking about the things that they want to put there. And of course, I don't talk much, but I spoke up and said, can we have things that we do not already have in Marshfield? Let's not have another pizza place, another coffee shop. Let's have things that we don't have to give that one more leg up so more people will come to Marshfield because we're going to have other things. So if we can find, this sounds like a really very ambitious but a very neat thing to bring. And already we have it. We just have to make it.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, Granite Peak, Powers Bluff, Bruce Mound, I mean, there's other amenities, but you have to drive to them.
Right.
And, this would be something local, and if you got an hour or two to kill, or maybe you want to just drop the kids off and take care of some shopping, if you will, and let's provide an opportunity.
Feedback?
And there's ample parking already available there, isn't there? As well?
I think there's street parking there, but I mean, I think that's just something we'll have to, work with, Justin and I will have to tackle as we go through it, work with Public Works to see what they think. I think there's some additional lots up in that area that are being utilized by other companies right now, so maybe there's a partnership there that can be developed.
It's a cul-de-sac right now, right? I mean,
Yeah. I don't believe there's any parking restrictions on the street there that I'm aware of.
Don't block the water department driveway.
or the bulk water station, but other than that,
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great
I think
idea.
it's certainly worth pursuing to the next step, the next level.
Something that economic development groups you think would get behind?
I think that's a distinct possibility. Adam, what do you think?
I think it's worth bringing to them. I don't know. I can't say if they'll support or not, but
Yeah.
they're a quiet group, so you never know what they're going to really think. You and I might be the two who talk the most, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
quiet.
so, but I think it's worth taking to them. I honestly don't know. My guess is the biggest question is going to be who's funding it.
Yeah, so
To any entities. You know, who's funding it, is it going to be a joint effort? But I see no harm in discussing it at EDD. I'd support discussing it.
Get the soccer team to carry some dirt up.
how to build it up. Yeah.
Harry, your thoughts?
you're muted, Aaron.
Harry, you're muted.
There we go. No, it's a wonderful idea. I love seeing projects that help Marshfield keep moving forward. It's a quality of life issue, and all for it. Let's go.
Okay. Mr. Witzel?
No comment.
All right. I like the creativity behind it. I like the idea of partnership with some other places in town to make it happen. Justin, thanks for coming. You got any thoughts?
Our department has identified sledding hill as a component that we lack for quality of life, especially for a season as long as winter is sometimes here. A lot of kids can go inside, but those opportunities come hard when all the school teams are using their gymnasiums or different areas. We've done a good job of ice skating and developing ice skating, but sledding hills are a need. It's definitely in the Midwest, the sledding hill is something you want. Gives the kids something to do, but it doesn't cost a lot. There's not a lot of infrastructure, man hours usually associated with it. Mother Nature takes care of most of that. We tried to consider it in Brain Park, but it just didn't work out. It's very flat there. And to build the sledding hill would impact a lot of the users and it'd bring in a lot of material. Where this is one of our few hills in town, so it's a win-win. So we'll have a lot of infrastructure and material to bring in. So it's just regrading and doing it right, make sure your slopes are correct, and it should be relatively safe and easy to do. We just hope that it snows, which I'm sure it will. So yeah, our department is supportive of it and think it'd be a win-win. Obviously, it's the big question is funding and who's going to fund it and who's going to maintain it. But maintenance should be relatively low, being that it shouldn't require a lot of maintenance. It's just a grass area, and we can allow either goats or soccer players to maintain the turf areas. It shouldn't be too bad. Compared to ice skating is one of those things that you spend a lot of time maintaining and getting it ready, and then 150-degree day, it's all gone, and you start over. So, our department is supportive of it. And Nick and I have been talking about it now on a very high level, and now we're finally at a point of just saying, hey, put our finger in the wind. Are we going the wrong direction, or is this the right direction? Or do we not know enough yet?
No, I like the way you guys are just throwing it out there for discussion.
Even,
Go ahead, I was going to.
even if it was a phase 0.5 of just at least, are you sloping away from the fence too? Because right now everything seems to go right towards the fence.
Yeah. All right. What outcome are you looking for? Are you just looking for, yeah, we like the idea and you guys keep working on it behind the scenes, or?
Yeah, that's kind of the approach that we're looking at. Like I said, I think Justin's going to take it Wednesday to your body.
We have a committee meeting on Wednesday, so our timing's good. We'll present to them, see what they say. If they're like, I don't like it, we should focus in another direction, then that's fine. We also have our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, which is scheduled to be done next year. And that'll look at all of our recreation programming and facilities as a whole. We'll see what shakes out from that too.
And obviously the EDB and possibly the city council, if that was desirable to get an idea of this, a finger in the wind, if you will, from those bodies.
Agreed. Build some consensus, or not. All right. Sounds good. Thanks for bringing something different. Any last comments on that? All right, number 9, audit services RFP.
Yes, so we've partnered with the city and completed an RFP for auditing services. While the RFP was sent to 8 different firms, we only received bids from 2 firms. And unfortunately, one of those was received after the deadline that was included in the specification and therefore was not opened or considered. CLA was the lone qualified bidder. The selection team reviewed the proposal from CLA, and the selection team is also recommending moving forward with CLA. So staff, Patty, Kent, and I were a part of that team, and we're recommending that the commission approve MU to contract with CLA for a 5-year period through October 21st to 2027, with the option of 2 2-year extensions at the utility's discretion. Just to let you know, this was presented to the Finance, Budget, and Personnel last week, and they did approve it, and I think it'll be considered by the Common Council tomorrow night as part of their consent agenda. While we're not required to follow or use the same firm as the city, it just makes it much easier from the auditing perspective to be able to roll the numbers from the utility into the city's full-on audit. So.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve the proposed contract by Paul?
Yeah, I'll let you work on the language.
Second.
Second by Nate. Any questions, comments, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Harry. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. MU building update.
So progress continues. I'm sure you can see the garage is coming up. Walls and roof are installed. They're currently working on the concrete floors and site work. We're still shooting for a completion in early December. In the memo, I did provide an update on project cost versus budget to give you an idea where we're at right now. And we're about $500,000 under the original budget for the project. So.
Do you foresee that ending up that way, about $500,000 below budget then, or? Is there much more coming?
Yeah, in general, yes.
Okay.
Unless there's some surprise that I'm not aware of. But we're, as far as subsurface work, they're doing the last piece today. They start digging it and actually going to test it tomorrow. So we'll know if there's going to be an additional change order related to that. But that should be the last one of those, hopefully.
Okay.
So don't jinx it right now.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions? First review of capital budget.
Yes. So turn it over to Patty.
First, just want to introduce Melissa Miller. She's the new accountant. She will be doing the majority of the budget work in the future. We worked together, obviously, this year to put together the draft. So the budgets are basically the same format as past years. Page 2 of the capital budget shows the summary by utility. It shows the actual versus the budget going back to 2019. The total for 2023 right now is 4.8 million. The bottom still has the 2 graphs showing the 5-year history, and then it also shows the depreciation included in the rates versus the capital budget. I don't have much more than that. The detail is shown on pages 3 through 7, each utility. Page 8 shows the outside financing, which is currently showing nothing but could change. And then page 9 will show the forecasted major projects with none of them showing as financed at this point, but again, could change between now and the next meeting.
And just a couple things that I'd like to point out. I guess Patty hit on it first on the lower right on page 3. There's that chart that kind of shows the total cost, the total capital budget compared to the depreciation that's in the rate case. So in the electric, you can see that it's meeting the parameters there, being that the depreciation is around 3 million and the budget is 2.2, and that follows historically how we've done on the electric side. On the water side, obviously, it's over. That's obviously due to the lead service replacement project, the water treatment filter cell media project that's on, and nozzle replacement that's on the horizon. And then if you go to the last page, the listing of future capital projects, Patty talked about that a little bit. You know, there's one on there with PFAS treatment facility at Southside that's listed for in 2024 for 6.5 million. So those are some things that we're trying to work on right now. And 2 other things that aren't necessarily on the budget, but that we're thinking about is that we have 2 debt issuances, the 2014 and the 2015 for water, that are both callable at the end of next year. So those are all these things are kind of hitting at the same time. So we've reached out to Ellers, and they're working on completing a financial analysis for us, and we'll have that for the November commission meeting. The analysis is going to consider how we should fund these long-term items. So looking at both, and again, the filter cell and nozzle replacement, the lead service replacement, and the PFAS treatment. Looking at those projects, and then looking at our long-term debt issuance, safe drinking water loans from the state, or maybe cash financing, and determining which, how those impact our cash flow, how they impact rate of return, how they impact future rate cases, to help us make an educated decision on which route we should go, and timing and completion of those projects, and obviously funding. So that's kind of working on behind the scenes, and like I said, we hope to have that, plan to have that to you next month.
Thanks. Questions at the initial look at the capital budget?
And this will be brought back next month for consideration, and then December as well. It's usually the normal track that we go on.
Go ahead, Nate.
For the one that, let's see, the 2023 budget for water treatment plant, could you just maybe speak to this $700,000 filter cell media and nozzle replacement?
Yeah, but John can probably get more into the details, so let's go ahead, John.
Oh yeah, we have up at the plant, we do iron and manganese removal through a gravity sand filter. And every time you do a backwash, you lose a little bit of that sand over time. And with the south side shutting down because of the PFAS contamination, we're using the plant a lot more than we have been in the past. You know, we usually split, when the south side was in use, we would split about the 2 million gallons evenly, 1 million at Southside, 1 million at the plant. And now we're doing probably 3/4 of that at Southside and the rest at Wildwood substation. So we're doing a lot more backwashes because we're processing a lot more water supply from the plant. So we're seeing, we were starting to get lower on that, and I wanted to get that in the budget because it might last the year yet. It might go into next year, possibly. If we can, we will. But I wanted to put that out there because, as you know, that sand is essential to the filtering process to remove that iron and manganese out. Back in '92 when they built it, it started at 3 feet of depth, and it's functional to about 18 inches, and we are now at about 22 inches. So it's something that's decreasing over time. We were hoping to, you know, before the PFAS hit, we were projecting maybe 25, but with the PFAS contamination taking Southside out of service, I'm anticipating that number is going to come sooner. And then when you have to basically remove all of the existing sand that's there. You can't top it off because you don't get the gradation the way it should be. So you need to basically suck it all out. And while you've sucked all that media out, there's all these filter nozzles down there to accept the water as it's filtering through the sand. You might as well replace those while that's all that sand is removed, because if anything gets you know, damaged or anything down the road, you'd have to suck all that sand out anyway. So it's good to just make that all part of one project while you're doing sand removal.
You may be asking yourself if this sounds like a consumable, it should be an operation and maintenance budget.
Yeah.
We reached out to the Public Service Commission and they told us it would be a capital item. We were a little surprised as well, but I guess given the longevity or the length of time that it's been in place since '93, I'm guessing that might have been some of their rationale behind it.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting, yeah, thank you.
If the last time it was 93, can you forecast at the higher use rate, if that doesn't change, how long it'll last this time? Because it isn't going to last as long, right?
Possibly, even, you know, at the higher use rate, no, it shouldn't last as long, no. And I'm worried that as it gets less and less, those backwashes will be more effective at jettisoning material out because it's pushing more. It's easier to push up because you don't have the weight of the sand pushing down with each inch that decreases.
And once we get into the O&M budget here in a minute, you'll see that there is a line item for a temporary PFAS trailer, and that's something we've talked about previously. So obviously, if we can get that in place next year, that would then help lengthen the time that the sand is, and that gives us a little bit of wiggle room in the fact that it's either 23 or maybe gets slid into 24 for the sand replacement.
All right. Any other questions? Harry, question? No? Okay. All right, first review of O&M budget.
Again, same format as prior years. Each utility has an income statement as the first page for that utility, followed by the more detailed sheets. The income statements include actual and budget for 2019 through the budget year 2023. Also included are the calculated rate of return and authorized rate of return, as well as the debt service coverage. We have the two graphs still showing the actual rate of return versus the authorized, and then also the operating expenses in the budget versus the amount we had in our 2016 rate case, increased for inflation. The 2023 operating expenses were developed based on an average of 20, 21, and then annualized 22 with an inflation factor of 3.4%. The managers then also reviewed the expenses and added in additional items and made adjustments as needed. more of the special or different projects are on page 24 of the O&M. The electric revenues for 23, we included a 7% rate increase effective June 1st. The water utility does not have a rate increase included. I think the plan is to go in for one in 2024. And then the last section would be the business plan, which gives a written description of the operating expenses.
Questions?
Like the capital, this will be brought again back in November and December for consideration. I think as you look at those graphs that kind of show what the 2016 rate cases, and then we provide some targets. Obviously, our targets are based on a 2% inflationary increase annually. Obviously, the last year or two, we've been saying much higher than that, definitely when it comes to a lot of the services that we contract for. So that's why you see that there is slightly higher than what the target is. I think the other piece that it was a challenge that Melissa and Patty both work on is the revenue side, right? Outside of any new customers, forecasting revenues is a challenge, and they go through a process to try to dial that in as best they can. But that is something that's somewhat of more of an art than a science, if you will. You will notice that as you look at the electric, some of the pilot payment, some of those increases related to the building are reflected in this as well. So. And then on the water side, as far as any future rate cases, obviously that's not something that the budget is talking about. That's something we'll reevaluate next year once we get into the audited financial statements. The reason for the timing of water rate cases is that it's been over 5 years since we've done the last one, and unfortunately the PSC does not allow us to do the simplified ones now going forward. So the only mechanism we have going forward is a full rate case if one is determined or needed. So.
It seems like the residential revenue's up actually more like over 10%. Is there,
For which utility?
for electric rates, it shows just under 12 million for residential 2023 budget.
Yeah, and it's probably more reflective of the rate case. As Patty mentioned, the 7% increase in rates that would take effect in June.
Yeah.
That's forecasted in here.
Yeah, and the PCA, so the cost of power also affects revenues. So if we project a higher cost of power, then there's going to be higher revenues associated with that, but the two kind of offset in a way.
Yeah, you can see how the purchase power is about 1.3 million higher next year. So that obviously gets spread across, as you mentioned, through the PCAC back to the different customer classes.
Gotcha.
We also assume about a 1% increase in residential usage as well coming up.
Pretty small.
Pretty small, but it's an increase in usage, yeah.
I think as Tony spoke before about electric vehicles, we have to push for more of those, right, to see the increase. But yeah, 1% is based on just historical, along with potential new homes, new rentals, things of that sort.
Good. Other questions, comments, concerns? This is the first reading, so to say. We'll see it again next month. So if you've got questions after you spend more time with it.
Yeah, we'd welcome them if you have them. If you get
In advance.
In advance, yeah. Give us time to really look into the numbers if there's any details about them too.
Very good. All right, moving on. Number 13, lead and PFAS update.
Yes, so as was mentioned, work on the PFAS feasibility study and report is ongoing. We're expecting results sometime in November. Lead service replacements, we're up over 300 for this season so far, so doing well on that front. The other part I wanted to talk about a little bit is the draft ordinance the commission reviewed at our last meeting as it related to lead. We did present that to the Common Council for a first reading. Unfortunately, since then, we've learned that the DNR is changing their funding opportunities for private side lead service replacements. So in future years, the funding amount will only cover a portion of the total cost of replacement, compared to where we are now. So due to this change in funding, we believe that maybe tabling the ordinance for the foreseeable future makes the most sense. The previous DNR funding has been in place for about 6 years, with the last few years providing 100% reimbursement. Not having the 100% funding reimbursement and then asking for an ordinance to be passed, it only created a very difficult situation for property owners. And I think at this point, it's really on us as staff to continue to look for creative ways to help support these customers, but putting the ordinance in place, I don't think this is the right time to do that. So just wanted to get your guys' feedback as far as it relates to that, asking to pull the second reading and not moving forward with the ordinance if you had any concerns with doing that.
A huge part of the rationale behind the ordinance was to lay the groundwork for getting the funding for people. So without that, I agree.
Yeah, the 100% funding will run through, if they complete construction by the end of April next year, and they have to have their receipt in by early June next year. So that's kind of the window that's still out there for any residential customers that want to move forward. And I know John's working with the team to get letters out to those customers to say, hey, this is the last hurrah, if you will, at least that we know of right now, so that they maybe hopefully encourage any of those that are on the fence to get theirs taken care of.
Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? All right. Number 14, job orders.
Yes, so there's one tonight for approval, and then I just want to highlight there was 9368 was in the list as well, not one that's is below the $25,000 threshold, but just to note that that's the one that captures all the costs related to the mutual aid effort in Florida, and then we use that for getting reimbursement for the utilities that we supported. The job order for consideration tonight is 18175. It's a project on Drake and 8th. It's the replacement of overhead primary and secondary with underground between Adams and Columbus from Arlington to West 5th. The estimated project cost is $128,086. The budget had $99,000, so it's about $29,000 more. The increase in cost is due to the scope being increased. As the engineering team was going through the project, they identified 4 additional poles that needed to be changed. So that's what's, that along with obviously other inflationary impacts is what's causing the increase. Last month, you may remember there was a job order that went through that was under budget, and this essentially nets out the under budget of the other one with this one to make it basically cost neutral between the two. So.
Is there a motion to approve the job orders?
So moved.
Second.
By Paul, second by Harry. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Harry. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Bills and payroll.
Bills have been reviewed and certified good for payment. Don't yell next time.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the bills and payroll?
I so move.
By John,
Second.
second by Nate. Questions? Comments? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Harry. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Previous meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion to
Second.
approve by Nate, second by Paul. Any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Financial reports.
Included are the August financials and the September cash reports. Any questions?
Doesn't look like there's any questions. Nate?
I could come up with one real easy. Yawn.
Feel free, I mean.
So for the electric utility, it's 3.5 million over budget for income. Is that just, it'll equal out pretty soon? Some costs coming up?
gotta look at the timing of the
I'm guessing
kneecap.
that has to do with purchase power. Higher PCAC revenues is what, and I can research it more, but that would
Oh, no, that's fine.
my
Yeah.
first gut instinct on it.
You see that huge spike on the graph for the before PCAC versus the leveling?
That's right there.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Now you know I'm paying attention.
I was never worried. All right. Next meeting date is November 14th. Suggested items for future agendas?
Just one, maybe discussion or consideration of a different date for the meetings, exploring that if it's feasible.
Okay. Got a note there for you.
Thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn
So moved.
by Paul,
Second.
second by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nobody. We are adjourned. Thank you.